being called a fairy tale blockbuster reunion, and that is that Fernando Alonso will be returning to his former team of Renault, now called Alpine, for the 2021 Formula 1 season. Now, the Spaniard is the most recent world champion at Renault/Alpine, and I will stick to Alpine now from obviously now on in the video. They were called Renault, of course, and also when Fernando won his 2 championships, now called Alpine for this season. So Fernando is their most recent champion, and this was over a decade ago in 2005 and 2006 when he won the world championships back then, respectively 2 years back to back, and beating out Michael Schumacher and stopping the Ferrari dominance back in the V10 era. He's had an up and down season going to Scuderia Ferrari and also 2 stints at McLaren. The first one not doing too well, the second one doing pretty good alongside Jenson Button and Stoffel Van Dorn, and finally bowing out in 2018. Fernando has been chasing the elusive Triple Crown, which is the Indianapolis 500, the Le Mans, and the Monaco Grand Prix victory. It's only been achieved by one driver in history, and that is the late Graham Hill, of course, a Formula 1 world champion, British driver, and of course the dad of also Formula 1 world champion Williams driver Damon Hill. It is a big thing that Fernando's been chasing. He has been a good career so far. He has competed in Indianapolis. He hasn't won, unfortunately, driving the Mario Andretti's McLaren car back in 2017. He has also won the Le Mans 24 Hour. He did that with Toyota a few years ago, and he's back in Formula 1 now. He has won the Monaco Grand Prix before, but he is back with Alpine/Renault for the 2021 Formula 1 season. A family reunion. It is good to see the Spaniard back at Renault/Alpine. I will stick with Alpine from now on. It is good to see. And he partners French driver Esteban Ocon, of course, at the French team. It will be good to see. We are excited. Fernando has created, a lot of headlines. He is an up and down driver. It's a bit like Marmite. We either love him or we hate him. Let us know your opinions on Fernando in the comment section below. Do you love him? Do you hate him? And what do you think of his career so far? But in 2021, he will be returning to the team. And today we're going to be discussing why? And what is he really wanting to achieve this season? So the options really are to be at the team to help them in the World Championship. Of course, Alpine entering a brand new season with a brand new name. Of course, the ex-team principal Cyril Abiteboul, of who was in charge of the Renault team, has left the team. It still has a very good baton, but is he there to support them in the championship? Is he there to support French driver Esteban Ocon, of course, his teammate, the man who really is now the helm of the team now that Daniel Ricciardo has now left? Or is he there to win the World Championship? Is he there to try and get 3? Something that it wasn't really there for him to do at McLaren, but he was there to do it at Ferrari. He failed to do it at Ferrari, and something that has obviously been on Fernando's mind in F1 for a very long time. Yeah, what is he there to do? So Fernando Alonso is, you either love him or you hate him. I'm a bit on the fence, and I assume you are as well. So Jordan Fernando drove for your team, not once but twice. Both of those, unfortunately, not going too well, but nevertheless, he is still a good, respected driver. Hero, of course, of Carlos Sainz, a man who also drove for your team, of McLaren, now going to Ferrari. It is really a love or you hate it situation, as I've just said that with Fernando, but he is at his former team of Renault/Alpine, of which he won his double world championships at. So yeah, what is he trying to do in 2021? And whatever that may be, is it going to be achievable?
Well, I think the main answer to that is it's something for Alonso to do. I think when he left the sport in 2018, it didn't go to plan at McLaren the second time around. The Honda, the new engine deal with Honda and McLaren, re-partnering up with each other like they did in the glory days. The McLaren Honda name is so significant in Formula 1, it would appeal to anybody. And it appealed to Fernando Alonso, who kind of fell out with Ferrari and having a bad season. He left in 2014 on maybe not so much on bad terms, but probably not as good terms as what he would have liked to anyway. So he went there, and yeah, as we know, it didn't work out at all. It did look okay towards the end of at the start of 2018 when they got Renault power in, but McLaren kind of shut down development of the car to focus on 2019. And again, Alonso was just back to, being back at, being in one of the slowest cars in the grid. So he went away, for a Brit Formula 1. He'd been there since 2001, 2002, I think it might have been. He'd been in the sport for a very long time, and he's achieved a lot of things in the sport. 2 world championships as well. One of the most experienced drivers in Formula 1. He's up there as, I think he's part of the top 10, most wins in Formula 1. I think it is. So, he's done a lot in the sport, absolutely. So he went away to try and achieve the Triple Crown, like you said there at the start, which he hasn't done. The only one he's missing is the Indy 500. He could have won it in 2017, I think it was, 2017, but the Honda engine let him down. I think it was 2019 he tried it, and I think he failed to qualify. Then I think in 2020, I can't remember what happened. I don't think I don't think he did as well as what people thought he was going to be doing. So that's one thing he's kind of, I really want to do it. So now he's done Dakar. He did the Dakar. I think he's done the Daytona. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he has done the Daytona 500. So, and yeah, he's now like, what else is there to do? He's not done with racing. He wants to get back into Formula One. So he'd only said though that he would come out into the sport if it was with a big team. So he was linked with a return to Ferrari. He was linked to moving to Red Bull. Even Mercedes at one stage, which was quite, okay, it is out there, but hey, rumours at the end of the day. So when it was announced he was going to what is now called Alpine / Renault last season, it caught everyone by surprise because Renault was a team that was they were on the rise, but then had a dip in form in 2019 and were kind of getting back to their ways in 2020. And even when Alonso had signed, Renault was still, they were doing okay, but they weren't on the form as what they ended the season with. They hadn't achieved a podium at this stage, so there was a bit like, why is he going back there? You know what I mean? And Alonso did say this was around the time when the new regs were delayed, I think. So he wanted to come back in 2021 for the new regulations, like you said. But they were obviously they were pushed back a year, and I think kind of everything was signed, sealed, and delivered type of thing. So there was no going back. He's going to have to race in 21. He didn't want to do it in the current spec of cars, but hey, he's going to have to do it for another year. So I think it's just why not? Let's just go back to Formula One. For something to do. I think he does want that third world title. Of course he does. That's something he's been chasing for a very, very long time. He could have done it at McLaren. He should have done it at Ferrari, and he hasn't. And yeah, he was never going to do it upon his return to McLaren. Maybe he was thinking that, but he didn't. So going to Alpine for 2021, is he going to achieve that championship that he wants? No, it's good. Let's rule that out first and foremost. He's not going to do it, despite people thinking, oh, he might do it. I think there's like a thing where, there's like one of them like things where, the last time Hamilton won a championship, Alonso did this. Or do you know what I mean? Like when they say, the last time this happened, Alonso was champion, or the last time this happened, a Spaniard did this type of thing. You know what I mean? They're doing the rounds at the moment, and everyone's like, oh, Alonso might win it. He's not. I'm ruling it out. But for 2022, it's anybody's game, and we've said this before. It's anyone's. It's up for grabs for everybody, isn't it? At the end of the day, could Alpine be the team at the front of the grid? Who knows? I don't know, and that could appeal to Fernando Alonso. He must know something that we don't. That is enticing to come back to the sport, but I don't know. I think this is more of a Alpine gain than it is for Fernando Alonso, because Alonso brings a lot of experience, doesn't he? He's been everywhere in the sport. He's done so many things, like I said before. And if Alpine want to move forward in the future, having a driver like Fernando Alonso is going to be very, very key. It's almost a mirror image or a mirror thing of when Schumacher went to Mercedes. Everyone kind of questioned it. Has Schumacher still got it? Does he want to win championships? Like, what's the big deal here? Why is he coming back? And he went back. It didn't work as what everyone would have liked it to, of course. I mean, yeah, he was never going to win a Grand Prix. Mercedes never had the car to until 2012, but kind of maybe Schumacher didn't have the speed that he once had. But still, though, the development and the research and the feedback Schumacher gave has helped Mercedes to where they are today, as well as other things as well. But it helped Mercedes, so maybe it could help Alpine in the same way. But yeah, it has questioned people to kind of go, well, Renault have got this driver academy, but with them, they've got Esteban Ocon, who he has been in Formula 1 for a couple of years now. He had a year off, but he's had a year back in now, so he's kind of he's fine, well oiled and finely tuned now. So Renault should have went for one of their younger drivers, but they haven't. They went back to Fernando Alonso, kind of coming back into like coming back to your ex for a third time. The glory days were good, but you left them to go with someone else because you thought the grass was greener, and it wasn't. So you go back to them. Oh, I'm all sorry, but then all of a sudden the grass becomes greener once again. You go over there, you go back, and then you're giving it a good number of years now. Back in the day it was just a couple of years, or maybe even a couple of months between intervals. Now it's been a few years. Have you both changed? maybe you have. Now here we go again for a third time. Is it going to work? Probably not. But only time will tell. So yeah, Lyle, yeah, we kind of established, Alonso's returning to the sport because he's bored. He wants something to do. Must be nice, isn't it? I'm bored, but what should I do? Let's go and do some Formula One. That must be nice, isn't it? But do you think this is a good move for Alonso and Alpine? Like I said, in the long term, because Schumacher coming in has helped Mercedes in a way. Will that be similar to what Schumacher achieved at Mercedes? Will Alonso do that? Or do you think maybe they shouldn't have done that? They should have been looking towards the future and go with one of their young driver, one of their drivers in their drivers' academy, the young drivers' academy. Do you think Alonso should be coming back? Is this a good move for him? And do you think he'll replicate what Schumacher did at Mercedes?
To be honest, I do. I'm a fan of Alonso coming back, and I do think that it's similar to Schumacher. So the first thing is that when Schumacher retired in 2006, it's different to Alonso in this way. Obviously, Schumacher was very much still on top at this point. He'd won his 7th in 2004. 2005, he'd been beaten by this young guy in a new team, Fernando, of course, at Renault. 2006, then he decided to retire. And yeah, it might have been a good decision to do that. Obviously, Schumacher's career had been a very long one. He'd been in Formula 1 since 1991. He'd had a lot of success, obviously most successful driver at that point. He obviously still very much a legend in Formula 1. But when he retired, and I remember them, people like Martin Brundle were saying this when he did. We were standing at the last race in Interlagos in 2006, and just kind of looking and thinking, this isn't right. Michael Schumacher's got so much more to give. He's got so much longer in Formula 1. He still wants to race. And then the years 07, 08, 09, he was on the Ferrari wall, and he hanging around F1 races. We knew he should be coming back, and in 2010 it was inevitable that he was. It was a new team, Mercedes. Obviously, they really wanted him. German driver, German team, and Formula One as a whole wanted him back. And it is very similar in this way. So Fernando Alonso, of course, won his championships over a decade ago. It's not like It's not like Schumacher. It's not as as recent as obviously Schumacher's was only 2 years ago. When he retired in 2018, Fernando Alonso, it was a very turbulent time with McLaren. It was frustrating. We saw the ugly side of Fernando Alonso, the bit where people started to dislike him because he was always the vocal one on the radio, GP2 engine. We love listening and laughing at that. But you've got to think how, that's not a very professional thing to do on the radio. And that's where the dislike came from for Alonso in that way. So 2018 might have been seen as, it's good, get him, he's moving on from a bad team. But in terms of Formula 1, there was so much racing left in him. He was still a youngish guy, late 30s. Obviously, he wanted to achieve more, but he still had that racing in him. And I remember in Abu Dhabi, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel were doing the donuts with him on the pit straight. That was obviously very, that was a very emotional scene. Very much like Felipe Massa's was in Interlagos 2016 when he was walking down the pit lane with the Brazilian flag. And very much like that actually as well. We knew Massa was not done, and then he returned obviously the next year to partner Lance Stroll at Williams. And when Fernando was doing those donuts, we kind of knew that he wasn't done. He had so much left. Well, he didn't have so much left, but he had Formula 1 in him still to do, and there was obviously talk about him taking a sabbatical, which is technically true. He's taking 2 sabbaticals and 2 years to a sabbatical, and he's back. And I feel like this is very much like a Schumacher return or a Massa return. I know Massa obviously returned to. Well, actually, there we go. He helped the team Massa. Obviously, Fernando's not doing the same thing. He's not helping them in terms of because his teammates there, he needs them. But he is very much doing that. He's there to support Esteban and to help him in the championship and to help a new team. And yes, obviously the Renault, they've been in Formula 1, the French team with, the name Renault. They're not a brand new team, but they are changing a lot of things behind the scenes. Obviously, they've changed the name, they've changed the livery, they've changed team principals now as Cyril Abiteboul has moved on. So they are kind of like a new team with a new start. So I think Fernando's done it. He's returning at a very good time. And his return is very much like a Michael Schumacher and a Felipe Massa in that way. I do think that obviously Michael Schumacher returned to help the team, Felipe Massa to help in his teammate, and I do believe that Alonso's doing that. And I think that it will be good. Obviously, Alonso signed a 2-year contract as well. He would be at Alpine until 2022. 2 seasons, I think, to help him in the World Championship, which should be good, obviously, in terms of what he thinks his intentions will be. I think that is important, because if his intention is to go and win the World Championship, yes, of course, the points will follow that, mean that obviously Alpine will be higher, but if he's going to win the World Championship, that means that he could possibly leave the team behind in that way, not help his teammate, leave him in the dust, become competitive with Esteban, instead of obviously what I think a lot of people expect him to do, which is to play a second driver to Esteban, and just collect the points for the team. Be a team player in that way, and very much like Michael was. When Michael returned to Mercedes in 2010 till 2012, he was there to help the team, and he was there to help Nico as well. Obviously, Nico Rosberg was the number one driver. He was there to win the race as well, win one race, but to be the front runner, to be the main guy, to be the number one driver, the face of Mercedes. Of course, Michael Schumacher being the 7-time world champion, that did not work, Nico, because you have a 7-time world champion in your team. It's very much different. But a 2-time world champion helping the team in this way, while your young French teammate is the one who's heading the field, who is the number one driver, hopefully getting onto podiums like he did in Sakhir, and hopefully winning races, which I definitely think that Esteban, he has got that talent, and Alpine / Renault, and if we're going off the 2020 Renault car, definitely has that pace to do. I like Esteban. I think he's a good driver. Now that Ricciardo's moved on, I do think Esteban can step up and be the number one driver. And obviously, in terms of me on the French guy, I'm very excited to see what he can do. But Alonso, if he's there to help the team, I think he will do well. He will do good. And I think it is very much like a Schumacher and a Felipe Massa kind of partnership. So Jordan, I've talked about, obviously I said at the start there about the family reunion. F1's calling it a blockbuster reunion. It is good that the Fernando Alonso back at his old team. It's absolutely incredible. But just as I said there about Esteban Ocon and supporting him, obviously Felipe Massa, as now we've chucked him into the role, obviously came into the team. He came out of retirement, of which his retirement lasted, about a month and a half, if that.
Something like that.
And we gave him that incredible send-off in Interlagos, which, have you ever tried to retract tears back into your eyes? Because I think we need to do that after the pit lane. Everyone cried, and then it was like, Felipe is returning. Back up the go. Just suck him back up. So Felipe returns to help his teammate, and obviously Michael does the same at Mercedes. So is that what Fernando's doing? Is he happy to sit there and go, I'm helping the team and I'm going to help Esteban, give him a lot of advice, and I have a lot of advice to give, and let him be the front runner for the next 2 years? Going off his personality, back in the past, has he changed that? Obviously, we all know, he's a very feisty guy, and obviously very much, mixed. People like him or they hate him, and as I said there about Marmite. So is he happy to support Esteban, and is he happy to play second driver to obviously Alpine, and let Esteban Ocon be the number one and head the field, much like Nico Rosberg did at Mercedes? And even though I think it was a little bit kind of borderline, much like Felipe kind of wanted Lance to do at Mercedes, obviously Lance's first year at Williams. What do you think on Fernando helping out Esteban Ocon?
I would like to think he would help out Esteban, because I think Esteban can learn a lot from Alonso. But I also think Alonso can learn a lot from Esteban Ocon. They're two very different drivers at very different stages of their careers, you know what I mean? Ocon's kind of on the rise still, and Alonso's even though he's coming back, he's not going to be around for another 10, 15 years, you know what I mean? He's going to be around for a couple of years. Then I'd imagine he might say, 6 years later, I'm away. Whether he's got that championship or not, we don't know. If we're going off previous Alonso years, then no, he will be as arrogant as possible, and he will want to beat them. And I think that's still going to be the mentality. Doesn't matter who it is, whether you're a driver that's been in the sport since for 15 years, like Alonso was, or if you're a driver who's coming back to the sport, and if you let's say Mika Hakkinen had came back to the sport 5-6 years after his initial retirement, or a sabbatical in 2001. Let's say he came back in 2006, 2007, for example. He's been away from the sport for a long time, but he still wants to beat whoever his teammate will be. You know what I mean? That never changes, because your main rival is your teammate. But Alonso's been away, for two seasons now, and I think he's been away and done different sports, done different motorsports, and that's what he wanted to do at the end of the day. Now he's ready to go. I want to come back to Formula One. It's all about what the position of Alpine is, really. I think Alpine, like I said just before, when I was talking about Alonso come back, is he going to win the championship? Just write it off now. It's not going to happen. So really, Alonso should be, getting himself ready for 2022. Work alongside, Ocon very closely and analyze and give feedback as well, and just I honestly, I'm really struggling to think what to expect from Alonso at this one. I really, really do. Like, is it going to be a more calmer Alonso, or is it going to be an even more arrogant Alonso? I like to think he's going to be more calmer Alonso. Like, we're not going to get radio messages every single race. We're not going to get him complaining for whatever reason, unless he has got a really bad car. Then fair enough. But this is Alonso. I don't know what to expect. I really, really don't. But Alonso, he's coming back and he wants to win at the end of the day. He wants to do his very best. And if he's being told to move out the way for Ocon, it's not going to go down very well. He's not going to come back to be a number 2 at the end of the day. He wants to be number 1 at the team. He'll go, well, I've got the 2 world championships to my name. I've been here for many years. I was here before you even a twinkling new man's eye, Esteban. Get out of here. But I really don't know where he's going to be standing come the start of the season. I think as well, he's got he wants to kind of. But I suppose at the end of the day, though, Alonso, he has also been away from the sport for 2 years, and 2 years away from Formula One. I mean, a year away from Formula One is a very long time. So is Alonso going to take some races to get back into the groove of things, or is he going to jump back in and act like he's never been away from the sport? I think Kimi Raikkonen did that for a brief stint. He had 2 years away from the sport in 2010 and 2011 to go and do some rallying. When he came back, Lotus had a competitive car at the time, and you never think he'd been away. So maybe Alonso could be like that and just kind of be ahead of Alonso. But I also think be ahead of his teammate. But I also think this is a good opportunity for Ocon to really step up and show himself that he is not an average driver. Like, because Ocon came into the sport. He had a lot of hype around him. He did well in his junior careers. He was part of the Mercedes program. He did okay in his Racing Point / Force India days alongside Perez. And then when he kind of went, I think towards the end of 2018, everyone kind of questioned his ability. Is Ocon really good enough? And everyone was like, he's almost been signalled as a fraud. And then he went off to have a year out in Formula One and came back this year, and he was nowhere near Daniel Ricciardo in some aspects, and I think towards the end it did improve. It did, but at the course of the season it wasn't. It was probably a D/E in terms of his grade. So I think this is a good opportunity for Ocon to really step up and show that he can beat Alonso, but it is Alonso. It's going to be very difficult for him to do that. So it's going to be interesting. I'm very excited to see what is going to be produced here, but I don't know what Alonso we're going to be getting. Honestly, that is up for anyone's guess at the end of the day. I am intrigued to see what happens. But that's something we've spoken about as well. Like I said before about the championship. Alonso coming back to be a Formula One world champion. Let's ask that question now. Is he going to do this in his stint? Is he going to walk away from this sport a 3-time world champion, or is he going to be still a 2-time world champion? Because I think that's what he wants. Like I said, it's been bugging him for years to become a 3 times world champion. He should be a 5-time world champion. I think he's like 5 or 7 points away from being a 5-time world champion or something like that. So he wants. He should. I believe he should have more titles. I think a driver like Alonso having 2 titles, it's a bit like it doesn't do him any justice. If I say to a casual fan, "Oh, he's got 2 world championships," so that means he's okay. No, he's great. He's really good. It's just he hasn't. Yeah. He's made some mistakes, or the car he's got, the team's let him down or whatever. So yeah, do you think Alonso will walk away from Formula One for a second time with a 3rd world title, or is it just not going to happen at all?
We asked this question, or I answered this question on the previous video that we on the channel, which was about Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin. And very similar. Obviously, Ferrari guy. I'll get onto that in a little bit, because I think that's very, very important. And I love Fernando. Back in those days when he was in red. But what I said with Vettel is going to be very, very similar with Alonso. He wants it. He's going to be pushing. Yes, I do think that he wants it. Every driver wants it.
Oh, yeah.
His priority might be a little bit different to Vettel's, even though I do think Vettel is on the same trajectory. Remember, he's got a younger teammate who's got a longer future now in Formula One at that team, and obviously that's Sebastian Vettel partnering Lance Stroll at Aston Martin compared to obviously Fernando partnering Esteban at Alpine. And obviously, Vettel wants it, Alonso wants it, but very much like what I said about Vettel is just the fact that no, I don't think he's going to do it. Obviously, Vettel, the championship competitive car is like we really do not know at all. It could be very similar, and those two could be very close together in the championship. But the reason I'm saying, obviously, comparing this to Sebastian Vettel is the fact that, like what I said with him, it's just we've got so many younger talent guys coming through the ranks. Ferrari, I do believe that they can get back on top, and Charles Leclerc is definitely overdue for a world championship. You've got Max Verstappen at Red Bull, you've got George Russell at, obviously Mercedes in the future. I just don't feel like Alonso has it in him. All 20 drivers can't be world champion, but I definitely do think he'll be fighting and he'll be pushing a lot. And also as well, that's the best mentality to have. When Alpine was thinking of who they're going to get in, as John said there about the Renault Junior program, you've got Christian Lundgaard, you've got Wang Yuzhou, and you're looking at those kind of drivers and you're thinking, right, okay, who can we get? And yes, they could go for youth and enthusiasm, but we're looking at teams like Red Bull Racing, and we know that is not always the best option. They took youth in Alexander Albon, it didn't work. They've took experience now in Sergio Perez, and hopefully that will work. Very similar to them. They've taken experience this time over Fernando Alonso. Maybe Renault have been watching Red Bull closer than ever. We all remember that scene in Netflix when Christian and Cyril are talking about the engines. Maybe it was, you need a new driver, or we'll get an older driver. That might help us more. So they are going for experience, but nevertheless, Fernando will still want to win a world championship. Will he do it? No, he won't. Because obviously of the competition, we've still got Mercedes in the field, of course. But in that car, hopefully it can be a championship contender, but I just don't believe it will be from day dot. But as I say, that 2020 Renault has definitely got the capability of being high up in the championship. Podiums, wins, fighting for things, and the question might not be, or the answer might not be yes for can Fernando Alonso be world champion. But I do believe that the answer will be yes to can Fernando get podiums. Can Fernando get a win? That is very, very... It's out there, and there's very much a chance he can do that. On the all-style circuits, maybe. We're going to Imola, a track that he's driven at before. The older guys have. Kimi Räikkönen has driven before. So maybe, I think they're the only two drivers that have obviously, apart from last year's Grand Prix, of course, the all-style, the old Imola, which obviously came off the calendar in 2006. I believe that they're the only two drivers that have done that, Alonso and Räikkönen. So maybe Alonso can use that skill and get a podium at Imola, or maybe even the race win at Imola, because he might not have the flatline speed, but he knows the circuit. He's skilled at that circuit. I definitely think that he can fight for wins and podiums, but the championship, no, he can't, unfortunately. But as I say, he's definitely going to be there, and Alonso's got the right mentality. Just quickly before I pass over as well to John, obviously get his view. Very similar to Sebastian Vettel in this way, as I just said there, because Fernando went to Ferrari and it failed, and Vettel went to Ferrari and it failed. And as John said there, fighting world champion, that was three world championships, that Alonso could have gotten at Ferrari. He was incredibly close. 2010, one of his best seasons in his Formula One career. Wasn't good enough, but as an absolutely incredible career at Ferrari. Driver who definitely deserves more, doesn't he, Jordan? So 3 didn't come at McLaren in his 2 stints, didn't come at Ferrari, and can it come at Alpine? And if it can't, do you think that he'll be fighting for podiums and wins? And what's the best Fernando can do this season?
For this season, I would probably say podiums definitely is a shout. Not on a consistent basis, but certainly, like we've seen with Ricciardo, if things go his way, if the race pans out in a good, if the pace is good, if the strategy's right, then certainly I couldn't say. I think it'd be stupid to say Alonso not getting a podium would be ridiculous. Wins again, I wouldn't rule it out, but it would have to be a lucky race. Something would have had to happen to the Mercedes or the Red Bulls, and it would have been like it would be like an Italy 2020 carnage race that everything's going wrong basically. So, that's something that would be possible if that would have happened. On pace alone, probably not. I would probably say the best thing you can ask for is a win. If Alonso wins a Grand Prix on his return, I would say that as a success in my eyes. Because we did discuss this in the last episode about will Vettel be world champion again. We both said no because of the youth that's coming in as well, having the right car at the right time. And I'm going to say the same with Fernando Alonso. I don't think he will. But what I will say though is if he has got the correct car, but then again though, Alpine could be the brawn of this season or 2022. Like, they could be streaks ahead of everybody else. It's unlikely, but like I said, who'd have thought Brawn or / Honda, as they were called in 2008, that team would have been world champions in 2009, or Button would have been world champion in 2009. He was at the right place at the right time. Who'd have thought Nico Rosberg would have been world champion when he came into the sport? He had no real direction of where he was going to be going. And even when he was at Mercedes, he was still he's good, but he hasn't done anything. You know what I mean? And then his time came because he was at the right place at the right time. That, I think, in my opinion, definitely that is going to be where Alonso is going to be going. Maybe not like as total shambolic as it has been, but fingers crossed it can be a success, or maybe have a little bit of success as to what he used to have, anyways.
Yeah, I hope so. It's going to be a good return, though. I'm very, very excited for that. Ex-McLaren, ex-Ferrari, ex-Renault returns to his team for 2021 in the name of Alpine alongside Ocon. It is going to be good, obviously, for the next 2 years. We have the Spanish double world champion of Fernando Alonso in Formula 1. So that is the end of the video, guys. Make sure to let us know your views on Fernando Alonso. It is really very much a love it or you hate it. He is Marmite in the ways of do we like him, or do you love him, or do you hate him? And obviously a great guy who's driven in Formula 1 before, and obviously chasing that triple crown as we just mentioned. And now before we finish, we've got to mention on a big thing, guys, and that is that a whopping 93% of you guys watching this video are not subscribed to the GP Debate Show. Now please help us out there. It really helps us in a big way. Hit that notification bell. Also, you'll be notified every time we upload a video. We have so much more content coming for you guys throughout the 2021 season. But thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Stay safe, and until the next video, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.